The town of Hollow Creek was a place where everyone knew each other, where life flowed with a predictable monotony. However, the peace of this small town was shattered one night when a young girl disappeared without a trace. Leyla, one of the town's most cheerful and beloved residents, vanished, leaving her family and the townsfolk in shock and despair. The morning after her disappearance, Leyla's parents, Sarah and David, found her bed empty. Panic quickly spread through the household and then to the entire town. Sarah's voice trembled as she spoke to the sheriff over the phone. "She didn't come home last night, Sheriff. This isn't like her at all." Sheriff Thompson, a seasoned officer with a calm demeanor, tried to reassure her. "We'll find her, Mrs. Carter. I promise we'll do everything we can." The sheriff immediately initiated a search party. Volunteers from all over the town joined in, combing through the nearby woods, fields, and abandoned buildings. A few days after the search began, a new detective was assigned to the case. Detective Yılmaz, young and determined, arrived in Hollow Creek with a fresh perspective and a strong resolve to find Leyla. On his first day, Ken visited Leyla's family. Sarah, her eyes red from crying, opened the door. "Detective Yılmaz, please come in," she said, her voice breaking. "Thank you, Mrs. Carter. I'm here to help. Can you tell me more about Leyla? Did she have any enemies? Any place she liked to visit often?" Ken asked gently. Sarah shook her head. Leyla was loved by everyone. She had no enemies. She was always happy, always helping others. David, Leyla's father, added, "She did have a best friend, Elif. They were inseparable. Maybe Elif knows something." Detective Yılmaz found Elif at her home, looking distraught and anxious. "Elif, I need to ask you some questions about Leyla. When did you last see her?" Elif's eyes welled up with tears. We had an argument the night she disappeared. It was stupid. I don't even remember what it was about. She stormed off, and that was the last time I saw her. Did she mention where she might go? Any place she liked to go when she needed to be alone?" Ken inquired. Elif hesitated, then replied, "There is an old house on the outskirts of town. It belonged to her grandfather. She used to go there sometimes." Detective Yılmaz drove to the abandoned house, feeling a sense of unease as he approached. The house was dilapidated, with broken windows and overgrown weeds. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Inside, the house was musty and dark. Ken carefully moved through each room, looking for any sign of Leyla. In the basement, he found something that made his heart race, a locket with Leyla's picture inside. "She's been here," Ken murmured to himself. He called the sheriff. "Sheriff Thompson, I found a clue. Leyla was at her grandfather's house. We need to gather a forensics team to search the place thoroughly." As the investigation deepened, Ken discovered troubling information about Leyla's grandfather. Decades ago, he had been wrongfully imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. The real culprit was a powerful man in town who had framed him. After being released, the grandfather had disappeared, but not before vowing revenge on those who had wronged him. Ken realized that the grandfather's vendetta might have something to do with Leyla's disappearance. He found old letters and journals hidden in the house, detailing the grandfather's plans for revenge and his belief that the townspeople had to pay for their betrayal. As Ken pieced together the clues, he began receiving anonymous threats. Notes were left on his car, and strange calls came to his phone late at night. One evening, as he was working late at his office, his phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. "You're getting too close, detective. Leave this town if you value your life," the voice on the other end said before abruptly hanging up. Ken's determination only grew stronger. "Whoever is behind this, I'm not backing down," he muttered. One night, Ken visited Leyla's house again. He needed more information about her grandfather. Sarah and David invited him in and showed him old family photos and documents. Her grandfather, Henry, was a good man. He was heartbroken after what happened. He never got over the betrayal, Sarah said, her voice filled with sorrow. As Ken examined the documents, he found a map hidden among the papers. It marked several locations around the town, with the old house being the center point. These must be places significant to Henry, Ken thought. He decided to investigate these locations, hoping to find more clues. Ken started with the closest location on the map, an old barn on the outskirts of town. Inside, he found more notes and a picture of a young Leyla with her grandfather. It was clear that Henry adored his granddaughter and had shared his secrets with her. Why would she go missing now? What did she find out? Ken wondered. As he followed the map, he discovered more about Henry's plans and the people he held responsible for his suffering. Each clue brought him closer to understanding the depth of Henry's revenge plot. With enough evidence, Ken realized that the key to finding Leyla lay with one of the town's most respected figures, Mr. Archer, who had a dark history connected to Henry. He decided to confront Archer directly. "Mr. Archer, I need to speak with you about Henry Carter and his granddaughter Leyla," Ken said, his tone firm. Archer's face paled. "I have nothing to say about that man," he replied, his voice shaky. "Your secrets are catching up with you, Archer. Tell me what you know, or I'll make sure everyone knows the truth," Ken threatened. Archer finally broke down. "Henry blamed me for everything. He swore he'd get revenge. But I swear, I don't know where Leyla is." Following Archer's reluctant confession, Ken received a tip about an old, abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. He hurried there, hoping he wasn't too late. The factory was dark and eerie. Ken moved cautiously through the building, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. In the basement, he found Leyla, tied up but unharmed. "Detective Yılmaz," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Thank God you found me." Ken quickly untied her. "It's okay, Leyla. You're safe now." With Leyla safe, Ken focused on bringing those responsible to justice. The townsfolk were shocked as the truth about Archer and others came to light. Hollow Creek's dark secrets were finally exposed. Leyla's return was bittersweet. The townspeople had to confront their past and the injustice done to Henry. Ken's relentless pursuit of the truth had saved Leyla, but it also forced the town to face its own demons. In the months that followed, Hollow Creek began to heal. Leyla and her family tried to move on from the trauma. Detective Ken Yılmaz became a hero in the eyes of the townspeople, his dedication and bravery ensuring that justice was served. One evening, as Ken prepared to leave Hollow Creek for his next assignment, Sarah and David invited him for dinner. "Thank you, Detective Yılmaz. You brought our daughter back and helped this town find peace," Sarah said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "It was my duty, Mrs. Carter. I'm just glad Leyla is safe," Ken replied with a humble smile. As Ken drove away from Hollow Creek, he felt a sense of accomplishment. He knew that, no matter where his next case took him, he would always remember the town that had once been shrouded in mystery and darkness, but had found a way to the light. Years later, Leyla grew up to be a strong and resilient woman, often reflecting on the events that had shaped her youth. She became an advocate for justice, inspired by Detective Ken Yılmaz's unwavering determination. Hollow Creek, though scarred by its past, had found a new sense of community and resilience. The town had learned that confronting the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to heal and move forward. Detective Ken Yılmaz, now a renowned investigator, continued to solve cases across the country, but the mystery of Hollow Creek remained one of his most memorable and defining cases. The dark path of mystery he had once walked now served as a beacon, guiding him in his quest for truth and justice.